My grandfather was studying a perfectly ripe cantaloupe when a piercing shriek tore through the calm hum of Riverside Market. The sound was unmistakable, Patricia Holloway. Everyone in Pine Valley knew her voice, the kind that carried authority born not of title, but of self-importance. After all, Patricia was the type to print her own business cards declaring herself the community standards coordinator. Grandpa looked up from the fruit display, his weathered hands still cradling the cantaloupe he'd been examining for 3 whole minutes. "Excuse me?" he asked, genuinely puzzled by the interruption to his peaceful Thursday routine. Patricia stormed toward him, her HOA badge swinging proudly from a designer lanyard that probably cost more than the groceries in most people's carts. "You've been banned from this establishment, Mr. Brennan. Effective immediately," she announced, tapping her clipboard for emphasis. From my spot near the dairy aisle, I could see the sheet attached, an absurd homemade spreadsheet titled Market Violation Log Grandpa. Stanley Brennan gently set the cantaloupe down and adjusted his glasses. "Young lady," he said calmly, "I've been shopping here for 15 years. There must be some mistake." "No mistake," Patricia declared, her voice loud enough for half the store to hear. "Your repeated violations of shopping efficiency standards have been documented and reviewed. Please exit the premises immediately, or I'll have to call security." I stood frozen for a moment, watching my 82-year-old grandfather shuffle toward the exit. Confusion and embarrassment etched across his face. Patricia trailed behind him like a prison guard escorting an inmate, her sensible flats clicking sharply against the linoleum floor with every self-satisfied step. That was my breaking point. I stepped out from behind the yogurt display and cleared my throat. "Patricia," I said evenly, keeping my tone calm but firm, "you just banned the owner's grandfather from his own family store." Her face went pale as she spun around to face me. Nathan Brennan," she stammered, suddenly recognizing me despite my casual jeans and polo instead of the suit she usually saw me in. I didn't realize you were here today." "Clearly," I said, brushing past her to help my grandfather back inside. "Grandpa, please continue your shopping." Patricia was just leaving, but if there's one thing Patricia Holloway was known for, it was her refusal to back down. She'd been president of the Pine Valley HOA for 3 years, and in that time, she'd turned what was once a friendly suburban neighborhood into her personal fiefdom. For context, I'm Nathan Brennan, co-owner of Riverside Market, along with my sister Rachel. Our family had owned this grocery store since before Pine Valley even had an HOA, back when it was just farmland and a few scattered homes. Riverside Market had always been the heart of the community, a 20,000-square-foot local landmark surrounded by a sea of chain stores. Grandpa worked here for 40 years before retiring, and his Thursday morning shopping trips had become a tradition. He'd arrive at 8:30 sharp, grab a small cart, and spend exactly 90 minutes strolling through the aisles. He'd greet every employee by name, share a story or two, and select produce with the precision of a man who'd spent his life in the grocery trade. But Patricia had found a new hobby 6 weeks ago, targeting my grandfather. It began innocently enough. She confronted our store manager, demanding to know why that elderly gentleman was allowed to monopolize the sample station. When told that Stanley Brennan was family and could sample whatever he liked, Patricia doubled down, filing formal complaints about his inefficient shopping patterns. Her notes bordered on obsession. I'd seen them myself. One line read, "Subject lingered 17 minutes in the produce section, exceeding recommended browsing time by 11 minutes. Another said, "Subject engaged the cashier in a 4-minute conversation about grandchildren, creating an artificial queue delay." My personal favorite, the subject tested the firmness of 7 avocados before selection, potential contamination risk. At first, I dismissed her as someone with too much time and not enough purpose. But Patricia didn't stop. Week after week, she stationed herself in the store during Grandpa's usual shopping hours, following him around with a clipboard, clicking her pen, and making disapproving sounds whenever he paused too long in front of the tomatoes. The final straw came last Thursday, when she actually confronted him in the produce aisle. She informed him, seriously, that his shopping methodology was disruptive to optimal traffic flow. Grandpa, being the gentleman he is, simply smiled and offered her a fresh strawberry sample. Patricia responded by handing him a formal warning on HOA letterhead she apparently carried in her purse. Now, standing in my own store, watching her clutch that same clipboard like a lifeline, my patience finally snapped. "Patricia," I said, pulling out my phone, "I'm calling Rachel. We need to discuss your recent behavior." "There's nothing to discuss," she shot back, trying to regain her composure. "The Pine Valley HOA has clear authority over all commercial properties within neighborhood boundaries. Your grandfather has repeatedly violated the community commerce guidelines that were approved at last month's board meeting." I actually laughed. "Community commerce guidelines?" "Patricia, those rules apply to garage sales and lemonade stands, not to established businesses. And even if they did, which they absolutely don't, you have zero authority to ban anyone from private property." Her face reddened. "The HOA charter clearly states that we have oversight of all activities that impact neighborhood character and quality of life. Your grandfather's disruptive shopping habits fall squarely within our jurisdiction." Rachel arrived within 10 minutes, having rushed from the back office where she'd been handling inventory. My sister Rachel had even less patience for Patricia's antics than I did. "Let me get this straight," Rachel said, her voice dangerously calm. "You've been stalking our grandfather, documenting his fruit-picking habits, and now you've tried to ban him from our family's grocery store?" "I've been monitoring compliance with community standards," Patricia corrected, as if that somehow made it better. Rachel slowly pulled out her phone. "Perfect," she said coolly. "Then you'll be thrilled to know I'm calling our attorney. I'm sure he'll be fascinated to hear how the HOA president has been harassing an elderly man and interfering with a private business." Patricia's eyes widened in panic. "That's not necessary," she said quickly. "I was simply trying to maintain order and efficiency for all shoppers. By banning an 82-year-old man for taking too long to pick out fruit?" I asked, crossing my arms. "You do realize that my grandfather spent 4 decades building this store for the community, right? He knows every employee's name, their kids' birthdays. Half the people working here got their first jobs from him. And you want to ban him because he doesn't fit your made-up efficiency standards?" By now, a small crowd had gathered. Regulars who'd known Grandpa for years were exchanging disapproving looks aimed squarely at Patricia. Then Marcus Washington, our deli manager of 15 years, stepped forward. "Mr. Stanley taught me everything I know about running this counter," he said. "Man's a legend in this store. He can take as long as he wants, anywhere he wants." Patricia's posture stiffened. She was clearly outnumbered, but instead of backing down like a rational person, she decided to double down. "This is exactly the problem," she declared, raising her clipboard like a shield. "Favoritism. The old boys club mentality. The HOA exists to ensure fair and equal treatment for all residents." "Fair and equal?" Rachel's voice rose slightly. "You mean like when you fined the Hendersons because their grandkids left their bikes in the driveway for 20 minutes? Or when you sent Mr. Kim a violation notice because his rose bushes were 2 inches above the height limit?" I raised a hand before Rachel could continue listing Patricia's greatest hits. "Here's what's going to happen," I said firmly. "You're going to leave now. You're going to stop harassing our grandfather. And if I ever see you following him around with that clipboard again, I'll have you trespassed from this property." Patricia's chin lifted defiantly. "You can't do that. I shop here. I have rights as a customer." "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone and opening our lease documents, "according to our agreement with the Pine Valley Development Corporation, we have full rights to refuse service to anyone who disrupts business operations. Harassing other customers, especially elderly ones, qualifies as disruption." "This is discrimination," Patricia sputtered. "No!" Rachel said sharply. "This is the consequence. Something you seem completely unfamiliar with." Patricia's face twisted with fury as she turned on her heel and stormed out, announcing that she'd be calling an emergency HOA meeting to address this gross violation of community partnership standards. I wasn't worried. What Patricia didn't realize was that half the HOA board shopped at our market, and they adored Grandpa. Sure enough, that emergency meeting was a train wreck for her. Patricia showed up with a 20-slide presentation titled Commercial Entity Overreach in Residential Zones, complete with grainy security footage of Grandpa loitering in various aisles. The board lasted about 5 minutes before Helen Patterson, the treasurer, interrupted. "Patricia, that's Mr. Stanley you're showing up there," she said. "He helped my daughter get her first job when she was 16. Are you seriously asking us to support banning him from his own family's store?" Patricia tried to rally. "This isn't about personal relationships. It's about maintaining standards and protecting the shopping experience for all residents. The only person disrupting anyone's shopping experience is you," board member James Lau shot back. "I've seen you following Mr. Stanley around with that clipboard. It's creepy, Patricia." The vote that followed was swift and unanimous. Not only did the board reject Patricia's so-called community commerce guidelines, but they also voted to issue a formal apology to the Brennan family for her behavior. Patricia sat frozen in her chair as one by one. The board members shared stories about Grandpa's kindness over the years, how he'd helped them, hired their kids, or quietly donated to local causes. But the real consequences hit her the following week. See, Patricia worked as an office manager for a local real estate firm, and her boss, Janet Morrison, happened to be one of our regular customers. Janet had been in the store during the confrontation. She'd seen everything. "I can't have someone who bullies elderly people representing my company," Janet told me later that week when she stopped by the market. "I've put Patricia on administrative leave pending a review. This isn't the first complaint I've received about her behavior, but it's definitely the last straw." Meanwhile, we decided to turn the whole ugly situation into something positive. We announced Stanley Brennan Appreciation Week at the store. Grandpa's favorite items went on sale. And we set up a photo display chronicling his life, from his early days as a young produce clerk to the beloved community figure he'd become. The response was overwhelming. Customers shared their own stories. Employees put together a tribute video. Even the local news ran a segment titled, "HOA President Attempts to Ban Elderly Man from Family Store." Let's just say Patricia didn't come out looking good. The story went viral on social media. People shared their own HOA horror stories, and Patricia's name quickly became shorthand for petty tyranny across Pine Valley. The final blow came at the next regular HOA meeting. The agenda included a vote of no confidence in Patricia's leadership, proposed by multiple board members. The community room was packed, standing room only. One by one, residents stood to voice their grievances. The vote wasn't even close. Patricia was removed from her position by a margin of 47-3, with only her and her two most loyal allies voting in her favor. As the results were announced, Patricia's face crumbled. Her beloved clipboard slipped from her hands and clattered to the floor. "This is all because of that old man and his family," she cried. "They turned everyone against me." "No, Patricia," Helen Patterson said firmly. "You turned everyone against yourself the moment you decided your made-up rules mattered more than basic human decency." Local news cameras captured Patricia's dramatic exit, storming past reporters, clutching a box of HOA paperwork, refusing to comment. The next day, we learned she'd been fired from her job. Janet Morrison released a statement saying the company could not employ someone whose values conflicted with its commitment to community and respect. By the end of the week, Patricia had listed her house for sale. The "for sale" sign went up Tuesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, the new HOA board issued her a violation notice for placing the sign 2 inches too close to the sidewalk. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The fallout hit hard. Between legal fees from her failed attempts to fight her removal, losing her job, and the rushed sale of her house, Patricia's losses totaled in the tens of thousands. Her termination for cause even complicated her unemployment claim. The last time anyone saw Patricia Holloway in Pine Valley was at the closing for her house. She sold it for $30,000 below asking just to get out fast. As she signed the paperwork, the closing attorney, another loyal Riverside Market regular, smiled gently. "Mr. Stanley asked me to pass along a message," he said. "No hard feelings." Patricia's composure finally broke. She burst into tears, fled the office, and in her haste, left behind her prized clipboard.